All right, cool. So we're able to fire the ball and spawn the monster, but we want to be able to now recall the monster back into the ball state. And to do that, I'm actually gonna revert one thing and make it so the item doesn't get removed when it's empty. So it's at least still in my inventory slot. So let me republish the game. All right, so now if I fire this, you can see that the quantity becomes 0 and there's my little mini monster. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'll create a reference for the item to its monster. So how I'm gonna do this is by creating a variable inside this item. So we'll create a new variable and we'll call it monster. Whoops, that's Korean font. Yeah, monster, and then it will be the unit type. So the data type will be unit. And the stream mode, this is for controlling your bandwidth usage. Generally, number 1 is the one that uses the most bandwidth, but it usually works the best for the most cases. So we're just gonna leave it as number 1 for now. Anyways, I'll go ahead and save it. And then the next thing I'll do is once the monster is created, which actually happens within the projectiles script from our previous video. Oh, okay, actually, I gotta get rid of these. Okay, let's do a retake. So yeah, on destroy of the projectile, which I showed it to you guys in the previous video, when the projectile is getting destroyed, we are creating the monster, right? But not only we're creating the monster, let's create a reference within the monster variable and then have that reference to the monster that was created. So I'll create a new action and we'll do set entity variable. And then it will be monster of the item. And in this case, the item would be the source item of this projectile. So source item of projectile. And the projectile would be this entity because we're doing the script editing within the projectile. And we're gonna set that as the last created unit. All right, so now I have created a reference. So after I create the monster, when this projectile is about to get destroyed, we are setting the source item of this projectile as the last created unit that we just had created. Okay, so I'll go save and apply. And then the next thing I'll do is when our unit starts to use the item. So by the way, this script, just as a reminder, gets called within the controls, the units controls tab. You can see that mouse left click runs the start using item. When it's pressed, when it's released, it stops using item. So these are the scripts that are being ran. As you can see here, there are 2 scripts that gets invoked by those buttons. So not only we're creating the unit, create an if condition. And it will be AND condition. Okay, so there will be 2 conditions. The first one will check for the item type. So we'll check for the item type of an item, and the item would be the item that is currently held by this unit. So this entity, because we're editing the unit homies script right now. So if the item held by this unit is, the type of that item is ball, and if the quantity should be the number. So if the quantity of that ball, right? So quantity, item quantity of the item currently held by unit of this entity equals 0. So if it's empty, I'm gonna drag this to the top, by the way. Yeah, so if it is empty and if it's the ball and the unit is trying to use the item, then we are going to destroy entity. And that entity will be the entity variable, which is the monster of the item, which is the item currently held by the unit, by this entity. Okay. And then right after that, make sure to return the script before actually trying to use that item. Oh, one more thing I'm going to do is we'll set the quantity of the item. Set quantity of the item. So item currently held by the unit, this entity, as 1. So we're refilling the quantity back to 1 from 0. Okay. So this will run if the ball's quantity is 0. So it'll destroy the monster and then it'll update the quantity back to 1. So we'll save this. And again, we'll return without completing the script, meaning that this action will not run if this runs. Okay. So we'll go back to play and let's try to use this item again. Okay, cool. So we used it, monster shows up, our quantity is 0. If I try to use it again, that monster should disappear. Let's try. There we go. It gets destroyed and we now have the quantity again back to 1. I'll use it, the monster will pop up, quantity is 0. If I left click again, that monster disappears and the quantity is back to 1. That's great. However, there's a slight edge case here. If I were to spam my left click, then it's going to allow me to just continuously fire, because as the projectiles out there, I can quickly, like my quantity has already gone to 0, right? So if I spam click, the number goes back up and I'll be able to spawn again and I can create a bunch of duplicate monsters. And we don't want that, right? We want to make sure that there's only one monster at a time per item. So what I'll do is I will prevent the item from being used. And how I'm gonna do that is, let me think. So when we try to use the item and when we realize, okay, so we're gonna destroy the monster and then update the quantity back to 1. Okay, so I know what to do here. So this can only run, this should only run if the monster is out in the wild, right? But right now we're still allowing this to run even if there's no monster. So what I'll do is I'll add another if condition and then it will be we'll do unit comparison, okay? And then we'll do for entity variable and then the monster of the item. So the item currently being held by the unit, oops, this entity. So if that is undefined value, meaning that, okay, so is the monster actually, does it actually exist in the game, right? And if the monster doesn't exist, then we're gonna return. We shouldn't be running this because monster doesn't exist. Okay, I'll save and apply. We'll go back to play and let me try to spam my left click again. And there you go. I can't fire it. I can't spam it. It's working. Perfect. So only one monster at a time. Cool. So now we can recall the monster back to our monster ball. And as I'm at it, I wanted to add a nice little special effect when I'm spawning the monster and when I recall it as well. So I was doing some shopping on itch.io and I found this asset pack and I thought it was pretty awesome. So I want to use it. So I went ahead and downloaded it, and then this was the image of one sprite that I really liked. So what I'll do is I'll import this sprite sheet to my game. So I'll go to entities, under projectiles, I'll add a new projectile and we'll call it the stationary effect. I'll upload the image. Where are you? The sorting doesn't work very well. I'm not a big fan of how Windows does sorting. Okay, can I do 02? Okay, 02.png. Okay, we can do it like that. Cool. And the image had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns by 2 rows. 6 columns by 2 rows. Submit. And the body type, let's do 32 by 32. And yeah, it's a stationary effect. It's a sensor, good enough to me. And animation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At 15 frames per second. Okay, let's see how this looks. And then it will destroy itself after 1 second. Save. And then this, I should use this as, let me think. Should this be part of the spawning effect or recalling effect? Let's do for spawning effect. And we'll make this effect pop up when this unit shows up. We'll go to the ball projectile. All right, and on destroy, we're creating the unit and we're setting the reference, but we'll also create a projectile. Create projectile at position, spawning effect at the position of this entity, and we'll apply 0 velocity and will not rotate as well. Okay, Let me go ahead and republish. All right, let's take a look. Bam. All right, there's a tiny spawning effect. I think I need to make it slightly bigger. So we'll go to the body type and make it twice bigger. Save and save. And let's try it again. Look at that. That's pretty cool, right? Yeah, all right. It looks a lot better, I think. Should it be even bigger than this? Also, I feel like the spawning effect is a bit delayed. I wish it was a bit faster. Okay, I do want this to be slightly bigger, by the way. So we'll increase the body size. We'll add another 32 to this. So this will be 96 by 96. Okay. Throw. There we go. Okay, this is, I think, okay for now. I wish it was, the spawning effect should be slightly higher, but again, it looks okay. And now I want to add the effect for when the, what do you call it? The monster is disappearing. Let me see what would be a good effect for this. All right, I did some chopping around and I think this image is okay. So I'll move this to the downloads, put it there, import it. 27.png. Okay, cool. So going back to the game, I will duplicate this and call this recall effect. Okay, and I'll upload the file. 27.png. It's got 1, 2, so same deal. 6 by 2. Submit. Animations all already there, or am I missing a few? Okay, I should add a few more here. Okay, there you go. Whoops. Okay, save and save. All right, so what's gonna happen is on destruction of this monster. Okay, so the trigger happens at the moment of destruction or initializing the destroy event. We will create projectile, a position, recall effect, position. You know what? We don't want to actually do it like this. Sorry, I just realized something. Because even if when this monster is killed, like we'll always play this event. But I think the recall event should be unique from just like when the monster gets killed. So I think the better way to do this is when the homie is actually recalling the monster. So yeah, I think right here is even better. So I'll create an event here. Projectile, create a projectile, recall effect at the position, entity position, and the position of the entity. Excuse me, the entity would be the monster of the item held by this entity. Hold on. Position of entity variable, monster of the item that is currently held by this entity. And apply 0 velocity and 0 rotation. Perfect. Okay, cool. Let's take a look now. I don't think it'll work. I'm gonna have to republish the game. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and republish it. And yeah, let's take a look at what the effect is gonna look like. Okay, great. So I'll throw the ball. Okay, there's a monster. Recall. Ooh, the recall effect isn't playing. Why is that? Homie. Oh yeah, you know why? Because I'm destroying the monster and then I'm trying to make a reference to the monster, right? This actually needs to happen before the monster is destroyed. There we go. Let's try again. And hey, look at that. It worked. Look at that. Okay, I think it will look slightly better if I were to speed up the animation. So let me try to speed it up by 30 frames per second. Funny effect and recall effect. Double the speed. Let's see how that looks like. Is that better? Anyways, really cool. Yeah, I love it. I think this can improve even more, but I'm actually already pretty satisfied about how this mechanics is working. I think this is really cool. Yeah, no, I think this is pretty awesome. All right, cool. So in my next video, I'll try to add a combat system so the monsters can fight against other monsters nearby. And then maybe also like some leveling up system as well. But yeah, I'll end the tutorial here. Thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't, please subscribe and like, and we'll see you in the next tutorial video. Bye now.